Hashtag.
Keep the $sign, smelly ass.
This is complete bullshit. And it's awesome. Fall Guys' initial popularity was a sight to behold in the summer of 2020. During a global pandemic was a game that featured easy pick up and play gameplay with a colorful aesthetic that captured the attention of several content creators.
It's actually really fucking easy.
Now cut off the other side, you'll win.
Just hold that.
Yeah, hold that island, you'll win.
You're good.
Yeah, you win, you win.
Nice!
I'm in the front. It's fine. All right, watch this. Jump into the first one. Ready? Ba-boom! Oh, see what I'm talking about, baby.
Where do you think you're going? Oh, no! Oh, fuck. I thought I had a little bit more time.
Over here.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. You're right.
No!
Let's fucking go!
Good play that was!
That was so fucking good. Oh my god.
Nice.
Oh my god.
Oh, he tried to do the fucking...
Oh, that guy did the skip!
He's trolling.
He did the skip!
Oh my god, he did the strat. Oh my god. Oh my god. I didn't even need to.
I'm not gonna qualify. Not even close. Goodbye.
That's fine. Oh
my god.
You're the last one in.
That is right. I did it. Number 44. Are you kidding me? Who do you think you are? I am.
Fall Guys becoming the most watched game on Twitch before the game was even released officially was a sign that Fall Guys was going to enrapture people, and it's no surprise why. A single look at the game gives all the information a first-time viewer would need to understand the mechanics and general design of the game. Fall Guys is a battle royale game in the style of a game show with a max of 60 players playing at a single time. The players compete in a series of rounds, and at the end of each round, a portion of the players are eliminated. The goal of the game is to avoid being eliminated and progress to the final round, where one person will emerge victorious. It's almost gladiatorial in a way, where 60 players will enter, but only one will be crowned, literally giving the player who wins a crown. The rounds consist of varying challenges like races to competitive team games to survival against rhinos to the most terrifying game of all, remembering fruit, which still for some reason has people losing. All of this is explained intuitively in-game by simply following other players and learning from them. As you become more familiar with the games, you stand a better chance at getting a crown. It's like games like Mario Party, where bite-sized gameplay challenges become engaging thanks to the secondary gameplay loop of progression to a final round. While the platforming and obstacles are relatively easy, the wrench in the plan are the other players. Fall Guys exhibits the concept of having too many cooks in the kitchen by having every player in the lobby do the course at the exact same time in the same place. 60 players go through the gauntlet of navigating the McDonald's play places that are this game's levels with the same amount of sticky fingers. Other players also bring a level of challenge that is only possible in the world of multiplayer, as the skill and actions of other players might as well be random. Interaction with the environments and the players are through three main mechanics: jumping, diving, and the third one that we'll get to later. It's like games like the 3D Super Mario games, but compared, it is far more limited in Fall Guys. Jumping is short, diving is shorter, and the mechanics combined limit the game in terms of the movement. This is a good thing though for the design of Fall Guys, because the linear nature of the game and the limitations of the movement means that all players are competing in the exact same method. With the pack of every other player all committing to the exact same strategy in most minigames, the bumping and chaos becomes a beast of an opposition, as the pressure to finish ahead of everyone makes games like DoorDash, Tiptoe, and Seesaw dependent on other players. It's something wholly unique to the design of Fall Guys, and it's missing in the Battle Royale genre, where instead of large expanses with small moments of brief, intense contact, there is always continuous action. Fall Guys' design needs this competition with other players as a primary mechanic. However, there is one round type that ignores this concept within Fall Guys. Instead of having 60 players, or at least a group of players competing at the same time, it is instead a duel between 2 players. It's the worst minigame that Fall Guys has, and it's called Button Bashers, and it's the exact reason why Fall Guys needs chaos. Most games in Fall Guys that use individual points as a measure for a player's success have a set goal for players to reach. In the chaos of several players in the same arena gunning for the same objective, the goal allows for players to fill a quota to be able to move on. Some team games are timed and use points to measure, but use a finite amount of points, meaning that interaction between other players and teams is guaranteed. Button Bashers' time limit might have worked if it was a team game, but in a duel format where players rarely find the natural chaos of working towards the same objective with other players, the need for points is to only be better than whoever you are facing. Button Bashers is a game where players hit one of 7 buttons that are arranged evenly across 2 sides, 3 on each side and 1 in the middle. Hitting a button gives a player a point, whoever has more points wins. Simple enough. However, because there is no quota to fill, the number of points to win doesn't actually matter as long as it is above your opponent. While playing the game, players are dropped within 2 sides. Due to the nature of probability, there's a strong chance that button will appear on one of the 2 sides. This means that one player will have a positional advantage. In a situation like this, one player has this positional advantage over their opponent. We'll call this player Player A and the other player Player B. Let's also say that Player A also has a point lead. Player A have to make a choice. They can choose to hit the button, while Player B waits for themselves to have a positional advantage due to it being more likely that the button will then appear on their side, or Player A can use their positional advantage and wait by the button. There is a point lead with no cap or endpoint, so why would Player A ever give up a guaranteed point that could lead to Player B getting the button on their side, causing Player B to catch up? If Player A waits by the button instead, Player B has to sacrifice their potential positional advantage to go for the button. Player B will most likely not hit the button, but due to the fact that they will be eliminated due to the point deficit, Player B has to make a move if Player A won't. So, Player B attempts to get the button, Player A hits the button before Player B, and Player A only furthers their lead while Player B loses their positional advantage. Without anything that could potentially change the game, Button Bashers is an example of why a duel format doesn't work for Fall Guys. The limitation on movement means that positional advantages can be extremely important, and without something that can upset the general flow of the game, an advantage is most likely to stay an advantage. Maybe to fix this, you can have the buttons move around, causing a player's positional advantage to be in jeopardy if they don't hit the button fast enough. Maybe you can have all the players on a leaderboard where everyone's fighting for each other, but only 2 at each arena. Or maybe you can have a goal to reach, and if you reach it, you move on and your opponent is eliminated, but that still might not solve the stalling issue. Either way, it's an example that shows that without the purposefully chaotic game design of most of the rounds, Fall Guys falls apart. For a similar game concept but done well, look no further than in the team versions of Tail Tag. The mechanics of the game are to keep hold of your tail at the end of the round, meaning that points don't count until the end of the round. It doesn't matter if for 89 seconds you have a tail when you end without one. What's important to note that this means that it is possible for comebacks to actually happen. And due to tail grabbing being something that can happen in close proximity, there is a constant desire for players to always be close together, causing chaos. Even if one team is to pull ahead, due to the limited number of tails available, that team becomes a target, and more likely to have their tails stolen, meaning that there is no set victor until the time is up. And that's not the only positive example, as most levels of Fall Guys represent chaos like brands on a motorsport car. In Stompin' Ground, a rhino hitting you at the wrong time could be what ends your run. Rhinos aggressively launching you into the air harder than the home run bat is a scary thing because the lack of control in the moment means that whatever happens is entirely reliant on the physics of the game and the bounce pads set up on the outside of the course that act as safety nets, as long as you hit them. Knowing that, every subsequent time you enter a round will always hold that experience in your head, creating tension and the overall hook of the game that you survive while others don't. It makes Fall Guys a battle royale to its core, and it wouldn't be a battle royale without the other players. Players are your #1 obstacle in Fall Guys, and for the most part only provide tension to the experience. The threat of being eliminated is always present, and a wave of relief always comes when getting to the next round. Thanks to the use of rounds, Fall Guys can bring a feeling of accomplishment to players that comes from successfully surviving, something that other battle royales could struggle with. Fortnite can have moments of adrenaline and action, but for the most part you are in a state of downtime as you move and loot. Fall Guys' downtime only comes from the moment you can spectate other players at the end, while also reminding players that, just like the players they are spectating, they might not make it to the next round, which adds another layer of tension. These layers are added on and on until the final round, where the threat of other players changes from the cut of the roster to a situation where only one player can come out on top. The players themselves are an inherent source of competition, so when tensions rise and an in-game win and a crown are on the line, some players snap. This is where that third mechanic matters most, and is the best way to interact with other players and influence their behavior. Do you remember that there's a third mechanic I wasn't going to talk about yet? That mechanic is grabbing. Grabbing is Fall Guys' way to allow for players to influence each other and find a way to give themselves an advantage over other players. Grabbing, however, has some pretty strong downsides. It's fairly puny, having a pretty short reach, actively slowing down a player who tries to hold it for too long, it's easy to break out of, and in a few times it is used for actual level design, it is slow and not really fun to use. But it's genius. While jumping and diving in their usage is obvious through its use in level design, grabbing is a bit more dubious in its nature. They are rarely used in level design, and by itself it looks sad. Just give them a hug. But in interaction with other players, grabbing is great because it allows for a mind game to be played. On certain levels where players can fall off, it could be possible to grab another player and push them off. This makes players not just another obstacle that could slow your progress, but a deadly one that could end your run if you are not careful. As players improve and improve, some games might become extremely long as players are able to avoid everything that comes at them for a very long time. With grabbing, this is the perfect way to break this problem. When grabbed, you cannot move for a little bit, even if you are struggling as much as possible. You are at the will of the other player and you might not survive. If you aren't paying attention and they grab you, you might not make it to the next round. And it is entirely up to each individual player if they want to use grabs or not. One player might find grabbing unwieldy and hard to use, so they might choose to play the game with minimal player interaction, focusing on themselves and trying to get first in the courses. One player might find grabbing other players to be a fantastic way to get ahead and try to find any player standing by an edge and push them off just to get an advantage. Maybe one player doesn't even want an advantage, it will just try to grab you for no fucking reason. Either way, when there are 60 players in each match, there will be almost no chance that you will know their playstyle. During a game, any one of these players might try to kill you, and you must be ready. But there's a problem. Because control is taken away from the player while they're grabbed, they might lose outside of their own abilities. When control is taken away like that, the player technically did nothing wrong in that moment to fall off the side. It was caused by another player. Some players might feel robbed of their chance to play because of another player. This is a hard topic to talk about without getting a little subjective, but actively taking away another player's run is at the morality of the player who is making the move. Do you as a player have the strength to give another player a bad time just so one number can get higher on the right side of the screen? Do you as a player have to accept that because you are seen grabbing other players, the rest of the lobby might turn on you as you have broken one of the unspoken rules of playing? Do you as a player have the courage to kill? That is why grabbing is fantastic. It's not just a mechanic that allows for player interaction, it relies on a social and mental game of unspoken rules that exist for the benefit of all players. The best comparison is in games like F1, where crashing to other players is one of the biggest unspoken rules, as it might give one player an advantage, but actively ruins another player's fun. Yet unlike F1, taking out the competition is the exact way to get ahead in Fall Guys. It gets you closer to the next round, or even to the crown. And at the end of the day, grabbing goes back to the central mission of Fall Guys: chaos. Developers of multiplayer games often find themselves at odds with keeping casual and competitive communities of the game they are developing equally happy, with some games leaning towards making sure the average player will be able to enjoy the game at any skill level, or allowing for players to continuously grow the skill ceiling to elevate the meta of the game. Fall Guys seemingly doesn't need to do any of that, as it's competitive enough to be exciting and tense, but also simple to pick up and play. But but none of it would be possible without the developers of the game continuously working to make the game more varied with every new season and update. What the developers have done with Fall Guys since release is nothing short of continuously making the game better with each iterative season. It seems that each new season is better than the last and provides a gateway for new players to join in. Fall Guys seems to know the perfect way to continuously have people return to the game. New content doesn't just come in the form of rounds. If you haven't noticed already, a lot of players have a lot of different costumes. Some look pretty good and some look cursed. These costumes are obtained in a few ways. Some you can get through a battle pass that, unlike most games in this field, is completely free. The others are located in an item shop, where a rotated lineup of costumes means that players will have to return to see new costumes to give their being the drip they deserve. There are two currencies in the game, kudos and crowns. Kudos can be won by playing the game as normal. Getting as far as you can in rounds gives you more kudos. You could also purchase kudos with real money, but most cosmetics that use kudos are fairly simple. For the big items, crowns are the main resource, which you can get from winning the final round in a standard game of Fall Guys. Crowns are unobtainable outside of winning and the set few you get from the battle pass, with you only being allowed to buy kudos with real money. It's a smart and respectable thing to do, especially when your game might end up with a large audience of children. And the developers are more than talented enough to know that their game is good. Fall Guys' Twitter account is frequently goofy and seems to always know the right way to address the community. And it is abundantly clear how much they care about their community. Want to know an example? This is Umomofu, a Japanese influencer who's been living and posting videos as a fall guy. The videos are often comedic, and even if you don't have a tongue for the language, the humor is often universal. Showmanship is incredible, and it's one of the most adorable things to have come out of the Fall Guys community. Despite the videos not getting very many views, rarely going over 1,000 views, the Fall Guys developers found out about them and decided to add a costume called Umo to the game as a thank you. It's genuinely awesome to see how strong Fall Guys' community support is, and it shows just how much the developers love their community. So it's unfortunate when a community doesn't love the developers back. Time and time again, games come and go that have rushed development, underwhelming release, and still feel the fire of fan hatred for every update that they make. Most EA games released last year seem to suffer from this. Battlefield 2042 and the EA Sports of FIFA and Madden are berated by players for not being true to what their core gameplay is. Back 4 Blood releases and suffers from a mixed player reception and is currently being crucified for not living up to its spiritual predecessor. It's bad enough when a release suffers from problems of developer crunch, tight deadlines, and overbearing publisher oversight that leads to a release that disappoints. It's worse when a community decides to spend their time telling everyone that the developers are lazy and made an unplayable game. Hyperbole is great for attention, but when an entire community decides to ride a trend of using a single video as evidence, it's hard to really feel like a community genuinely wants the game to succeed. Fall Guys currently is unfortunately suffering from this, and with the recent season brought a change to the game. A change that is so horrible and completely ruined the game for everyone who played it. It now requires players to sign into the game with a separate account. But it's not just any account. You need an Epic Games account, which is bad. Whether or not you think that Epic Games and their PC storefront has done more good or harm to gaming, the idea that logging into an Epic Games account, even when Mediatonic, the developers of Fall Guys, are literally owned by Epic Games, is something that ruins your experience of a game when it's a one-time login that gets out of your way for every subsequent season is frankly bullshit. And if you have any idea about who you think Mediatonic's developers are, I'm going to ask you a simple question. How many games did Mediatonic make before Fall Guys? Or even easier, how many games did Mediatonic make in, let's say, 2008? If you're already surprised that Mediatonic existed in 2008, you will certainly be even more surprised to hear that, according to Mediatonic's Wikipedia page, they made 38 games in 2008 alone. Granted, most of these are Flash games commissioned by bigger developers for websites, but it shows that Mediatonic is more than you would have probably expected. Fall Guys is a fantastic creation from an even more fantastic development team. Their commitment to make the game as accessible as it can while also still providing unique rounds of player customization through cosmetics is something that is hard to come by today. If this video somehow got to a Fall Guys developer, I just want you to know that your game is probably a level of happiness and joy that I haven't seen replicated elsewhere. Your innovations on the Battle Royale genre are incredibly smart and genius, and if there were only 2 words I could say to you guys, it would be thank you. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. It's the first time I've created a video like this, so I plan to make a few more if my schedule allows it. If you want to support me and what I do, feel free to like the video, subscribe, or comment. I do read every comment as I'm a quite small channel. I also have a Twitter and I stream on Twitch if you want to follow those. It's just at Pergs for both. Thank you to my buddies Neops and Jester for helping me get some extra footage and reviewing my ending style to make this video work. Genuinely couldn't do it without them. And thank you also to Yoplin, who drew this wonderful Fall Guy here on this end screen. It was modeled after the outfit I used while recording footage. I was going to use it for the thumbnail, but changed my mind. Still wanted to use it, so here it is. Thank you, man. With that, hope you guys all have a good day.